Chosen ones, if this video found you right now, stop scrolling. This message isn't for everyone, and it wasn't meant to find you later. December 17th marks a cosmic ignition point, a moment when something ancient within you starts to reactivate. You might feel a restless energy without understanding why. You may experience a deep calm amidst chaos, feeling emotionally quiet yet powerfully alert. This isn't confusion, it's activation. The universe isn't asking you to change who you are. It's calling you back to the person you were before the world taught you to doubt yourself. And here's a truth most people won't grasp. If you leave this video early, you might miss the very sign meant to confirm what you're already sensing. So please stay until the end. If even one sentence resonates with you, hit like, drop a comment, and subscribe, because this channel is for those who are waking up before the shift becomes obvious. Sign number 1. You feel less reactive, even when life tries to trigger you. One of the earliest indicators that your spiritual power is returning doesn't announce itself with a bang. There's no dramatic moment, no sudden emotional outburst, no shocking clarity that jolts you awake. Instead, something much quieter unfolds. You stop reacting. Situations that once drained your energy, delays, disrespect, arguments, uncertainty, unanswered messages, no longer grip you in the same way. The emotional surge that used to rise instantly now pauses. This isn't because you've stopped caring. It's because your nervous system has shifted out of survival mode. On December 17th, rare planetary alignments trigger a subtle yet profound internal recalibration. Energetically, your body stops interpreting life as a constant threat. The fight or flight response loosens its hold, and when that happens, your soul steps back into leadership. Not fear, not urgency, not ego, but your soul. You might find yourself responding rather than reacting. There's a tangible space between a stimulus and your response. Within that space, you feel genuine choice. You're not suppressing emotion or forcing calm. You're simply no longer hijacked. You pause before responding, not out of uncertainty, but because you're grounded. Silence suddenly feels more potent than explanation. You realize you don't need to prove your point, defend your perspective, or correct those who misunderstand you. Not because you're weak, but because your energy no longer seeks validation. It commands presence. This is energetic sovereignty, the moment your inner authority returns. You begin to understand something deeply. Not everything deserves your reaction. Not everyone deserves access to your emotional field. And this realization fundamentally alters how life interacts with you. Arguments dissolve before they even begin. Tension loses its charge. Drama finds no grip. People might notice you're different, but they won't quite know why. They might say, "You seem calmer, more mature, harder to read." Some may feel unsettled by your silence, others strangely drawn to it. That's because reactivity used to leak your power outward. Now, it's contained. And when energy is contained, it becomes magnetic. You're no longer emotionally available to chaos. You don't absorb other people's moods, projections, or expectations the way you once did. You observe without attachment. This isn't emotional numbness, it's emotional mastery. December 17th marks the point where your inner world stabilizes enough to stop outsourcing control to external events. You're no longer at the mercy of timing, outcomes, or opinions. Your center holds, and once your center holds, the world begins to adjust around you. This is why so many chosen ones experience a strange calm during periods that would have once triggered anxiety. Even when uncertainty is present, you feel steady, not optimistic, not excited, just anchored. This is how spiritual power returns, not as intensity, but as unshakable stillness, And the more you honor this stillness, the stronger it becomes. Because from this point forward, your power doesn't come from reaction. It comes from restraint, and restraint is the highest form of strength. Sign number 2. Old desires lose their grip on you. One of the most confusing yet powerful signs that your spiritual power is returning is this: things you once intensely wanted no longer pull at you. Not because you failed, not because you gave up, but because the desire itself has simply expired. What once felt urgent now feels distant. What once motivated you now feels neutral. Not wrong, just irrelevant. This moment often arrives quietly, without warning. You might wake up one day and realize the goals you chased for years no longer light you up. And that can feel unsettling. But here's the truth most people don't understand. You're not losing ambition. You're shedding false hunger. On December 17th, a rare energetic recalibration begins at the soul level. Planetary currents shift the way desire forms inside you. Before this moment, much of what you wanted was shaped by survival, conditioning, comparison, external pressure, fear of falling behind, or the need to prove your worth. Those desires weren't wrong. They were necessary for who you were then, but they were never meant to follow you into your next level. Now your inner compass changes. Desire stops shouting. It starts whispering. You might notice your wants becoming fewer, but clearer, quieter, but heavier with meaning. You no longer crave things just because others value them. Status, approval, appearances, and symbolic success lose their emotional charge. You might feel less excitement about recognition, less urgency to prove yourself, less interest in chasing outcomes. At the same time, you may feel more curiosity about purpose, more sensitivity to alignment, more awareness of what feels true versus what simply feels impressive. This is where many people panic. They mistake soul evolution for losing motivation. But nothing could be further from the truth. What's actually happening is refinement. Your spirit is becoming selective. December 17th initiates a filtration process where anything fueled by lack begins dissolving. You no longer want things to feel whole, because wholeness is returning internally. And once that happens, desire stops being compensatory. It becomes intentional. You don't want more. You want what fits. This is why manifestation accelerates during this phase. When your energy stops leaking into desires that aren't aligned, it becomes concentrated. Focus sharpens, emotional clutter clears, and suddenly, the things meant for you arrive faster, with less resistance. Not because you're trying harder, but because you're no longer trying for the wrong things. You may even feel a strange neutrality toward outcomes. Success doesn't thrill you the way it used to. Failure doesn't scare you the way it once did. That neutrality isn't indifference. It's detachment with direction. You're no longer emotionally tethered to results. And that's when results truly respond. This shift also brings immense relief. You realize how heavy old desires were, how much energy they consumed, how much pressure they placed on your nervous system. Letting them go feels like setting down a weight you didn't even realize you were carrying. And in that lightness, something new forms: a cleaner desire, a truer desire, one that doesn't come from fear, but from resonance. December 17th marks the moment your soul stops wanting what impresses the world and starts wanting what sustains you. And once that alignment locks in, life doesn't need to be chased anymore. It begins moving toward you. Sign number 3. Your thoughts slow down without effort. One of the clearest signs that your spiritual power is returning is not what appears, but what disappears. The noise. You're not actively trying to calm your mind, yet somehow your thoughts begin to slow on their own. The constant mental motion, planning, rehearsing, conversations, worrying about outcomes Replaying the past starts losing momentum, not because you've suppressed it, but because it no longer feels necessary. December 17th opens a rare energetic window where the mental body releases control. For a long time, your mind believed it had to stay alert at all times to keep you safe. It scanned for danger, predicted scenarios, and filled silence with commentary. That wasn't weakness, it was protection. But protection has a cost: mental exhaustion, emotional fatigue, decision paralysis. Now, something shifts. The mind finally senses that the environment is no longer hostile, that the soul is present, awake, and capable of leading. And when that trust is restored, control softens. You may experience gaps between thoughts. At first, this can feel strange, almost unfamiliar, like walking into a quiet room after years of background noise. There may be moments of blank calm where you're fully present without narrating the experience. No analysis, no interpretation, just awareness. And then something remarkable happens. Clarity arrives without reasoning. Answers come without thought chains. Decisions form without internal debate. You know without having to explain how you know. This is intuitive intelligence reactivating. Intuition doesn't speak in paragraphs, it speaks in certainty. For the first time in a long while, your inner voice doesn't compete with itself. There's no arguing between what feels right and what seems logical. They merge. And when that happens, life feels simpler. Not because circumstances change, but because the internal conflict dissolves. You may notice less overthinking before decisions, less anxiety about timing, less mental rehearsal of conversations that haven't happened. Not because you've stopped caring, but because your system has stopped bracing. The mind steps back from being the commander and becomes the instrument. It still functions. It still analyzes when needed. But it no longer runs the show. And this creates a deep sense of relief. You may realize how loud your internal world used to be. How much energy was spent managing thoughts instead of living life. With the noise gone, your attention sharpens, presence deepens. You become aware of subtle cues you once missed: tone, timing, energy shifts. This is why decision-making feels easier now. Not because options are fewer, but because your inner signal is clear. Your truth no longer has to fight through static to be heard. And here's the most important part. This quiet is not emptiness, it's readiness. The mind didn't shut down, it aligned. For the first time, your thoughts support your truth instead of drowning it out. And from this place, manifestation becomes natural, because action arises from clarity, not confusion. December 17th doesn't silence your mind, it returns it to balance. And when the mind stops competing with the soul, life starts flowing with precision instead of pressure. Sign number 4. You feel drawn to solitude, but not loneliness. One of the most misunderstood signs that your spiritual power is returning is this: you want to be alone more often. Not because you're sad, not because you're withdrawing from life, not because something is wrong, but because something is rearranging. You're not escaping the world, you're recalibrating your energy within it. December 17th initiates a rare phase where your aura becomes more sensitive. Your energetic field sharpens, refines, and begins filtering input differently than before. Environments that once felt tolerable now feel heavy. Conversations that stay on the surface suddenly feel draining. This shift can feel confusing at first. You may wonder why social settings exhaust you faster, why noise feels louder, why forced interactions feel uncomfortable, why you leave places feeling depleted instead of stimulated. This is not antisocial behavior. It's energetic discernment activating. Your soul is updating its frequency. And during that process, silence becomes sacred. Crowds pull at your energy because your system no longer wants to scatter itself. Shallow conversations drain you because your awareness has deepened. Chaos feels unbearable because your inner world is stabilizing. You're not isolating, you're integrating. Integration is the stage where spiritual growth settles into the body. It's where lessons stop being intellectual and start becoming embodied. And embodiment requires space. You may notice you enjoy quiet more than stimulation. Silence feels nourishing rather than awkward. You don't need constant music, constant talking, or constant distraction anymore. Stillness feeds you. You also begin protecting your time fiercely, not aggressively, but deliberately. You leave situations earlier. You choose depth over volume. This isn't selfishness, it's self-regulation. Your energy is no longer unlimited, and your soul knows it. So it teaches you to guard access wisely. Perhaps the most surprising part of this phase is that you feel full without external input. You don't need constant validation. You don't need entertainment to feel alive. You don't need noise to feel connected. Your inner world becomes rich enough to sustain you. This is a profound shift. For many chosen ones, solitude used to feel like abandonment or emptiness, but now it feels like home, not because you're detached, but because you're finally present with yourself. December 17th marks the moment solitude stops feeling like absence and starts feeling like alignment. You begin to understand that silence isn't lonely when you're connected to your own frequency. And as your energy stabilizes, something interesting happens. Your presence becomes more powerful in smaller doses. You don't need to be everywhere. You don't need to say everything. You don't need to stay long. When you do engage, your energy carries weight. This is how spiritual power returns. Not loudly, not dramatically, not through performance, but deeply, quietly, and permanently. You're no longer available for constant consumption. You're no longer open to energetic intrusion. Your field becomes selective, and selection is strength. This phase won't last forever in the same way, but it is essential. It's the pause before clarity, the silence before expansion, the inward gathering before outward alignment. If you honor this need for solitude instead of resisting it, your next phase unfolds with far less resistance, because the soul that learns how to be alone without loneliness is the soul that can walk anywhere without losing itself. And once that lesson integrates, your power doesn't need attention to exist. It simply is. Sign number 5. People treat you differently without knowing why. One of the most validating signs that your spiritual power is returning doesn't come from within. It comes from the world's response to you. Without changing your appearance, your behavior, or your words, people begin reacting to you differently. Dynamics change. The energy in rooms adjusts when you enter. Some people feel drawn to you, almost magnetized. They open up without knowing why. They listen closely. They linger. Others feel uneasy around you. They become distant, defensive, or strangely quiet. A few may drift away entirely. This isn't coincidence. December 17th initiates a powerful shift in your energetic posture. You stop broadcasting need and start emitting stability. For a long time, your energy may have unconsciously reached outward, seeking understanding, seeking validation, seeking resonance. That outward pull created vulnerability, not weakness, but openness. Now that changes. Your energy settles inward. And when energy is anchored, it carries weight. Your presence feels grounded, clear, and non-negotiable. Not rigid, not aggressive, just settled. You don't enter spaces asking to be seen anymore. You don't speak to be heard. You don't perform for approval. You simply arrive, and people feel that. You may notice people listening more when you speak less. Words land differently. Silence carries meaning. You don't fill gaps, and because of that, others do. Authority returns without force. This isn't dominance, it's coherence. Your internal alignment creates external respect. People sense boundaries even when you don't state them. They intuitively know where not to cross. There's a quiet understanding that your energy is self-contained. And this creates a shift in how power flows around you. You don't demand respect, you receive it. You don't chase attention. Attention finds you. This is spiritual leadership, reactivating. Not leadership over others, but leadership over your own energy. And that kind of leadership changes everything. Some people won't be able to meet you where you are now. They may feel exposed by your clarity, unsettled by your calm, triggered by your lack of reaction. This doesn't mean you've done something wrong. It means your frequency has changed. December 17th marks the moment your energy stops adjusting to others and starts holding its own shape. Those aligned with your new frequency will feel safe, drawn, and curious. Those operating from chaos or control may feel discomfort without understanding why. And here's the key: you don't need to manage their reactions. Your job is not to soften yourself to keep others comfortable. Your job is not to explain your transformation. Your job is not to shrink your presence. Your stability is the invitation, and whoever can meet it will. This shift also brings a surprising sense of ease. You realize how much effort you once spent navigating social energy, reading rooms, adjusting tone, anticipating reactions. Now you don't. You trust your presence to speak for itself. And when you do engage, your energy feels intentional, focused, clean. This is why leadership emerges naturally during this phase. Not because you seek authority, but because your energy organizes itself first. And when inner order is established, the external world mirrors it automatically. You didn't become more powerful by doing more. You became more powerful by anchoring. And once that happens, the world responds without being asked. Sign number 6. Synchronicities increase, but you don't chase them. One of the clearest signs that your spiritual power is returning is not the appearance of synchronicities themselves, it's how you respond to them. Yes, you may start noticing repeating numbers, unexpected timing, perfectly placed conversations, doors opening exactly when you stop pushing. You're observing them calmly. December 17th activates a deep state of internal alignment. And when alignment stabilizes inside you, your relationship with the universe changes completely. Before, signs felt urgent. You looked for them to confirm you were on the right path. You searched for reassurance, guidance, permission. Synchronicities felt exciting, sometimes even addictive, because they temporarily quieted doubt. Now that need dissolves. You already feel anchored. The universe no longer needs to convince you of anything because you're no longer questioning your own direction. So when synchronicities appear, they don't shock you. They nod to you. You may notice repeating numbers without rushing to interpret them. You recognize meaningful timing without attaching expectations. Alignment shows up, and instead of excitement, you feel recognition, like something clicking into place. This is powerful because synchronicities are not rewards. They're reflections. They show you the level of coherence between your inner state and the outer world. And on December 17th, that coherence stabilizes. You stop scanning the environment for confirmation. You stop asking, is this real? Or am I doing the right thing? Those questions simply fade, not because you have all the answers, but because you trust the process. This is why manifestation accelerates during this phase. When you're emotionally attached to proof, your energy is split. One part is creating, another part is watching, waiting, checking. That split slows everything down. But when attachment drops, energy concentrates, your intention becomes clean. Your signal sharpens. You move forward without constantly looking back to to see if the universe approved, and the universe responds faster to that frequency. You may notice outcomes arriving quietly, without drama, without build-up. Things align, without needing constant affirmation. This is where many people miss the magic. They expect manifestation to feel euphoric, but true alignment feels neutral, calm, stable, certain. You don't celebrate every sign because you don't need to. You already feel supported, and that inner stability creates a powerful feedback loop. The less you chase confirmation, the more confirmation appears. The less you cling to timing, the more precise timing becomes. The less you demand signs, the more the universe speaks effortlessly. December 17th marks the shift from seeking guidance to embodying direction. You're no longer asking life where to go. You're walking, and life adjusts around you. Synchronicities become gentle markers instead of emotional lifelines. They don't pull you forward. They walk beside you. And this changes how you move through the world. You stop overanalyzing meaning. You stop assigning pressure to timing. You stop turning alignment into expectation. This calm relationship with signs is one of the strongest indicators of spiritual maturity. It means you trust your inner compass more than external symbols. And when that happens, the universe doesn't need to shout. Because the most powerful manifestations don't announce themselves loudly. They arrive naturally when your energy is no longer waiting for proof. Sign number 7. You trust yourself again fully. This is the most important sign of all. Not because it looks dramatic, not because others notice it, but because once this returns, nothing can take your power away again. You stop second-guessing yourself. Not out of arrogance, not because you suddenly know how everything will turn out, but because something inside you recognizes itself again. December 17th restores a core frequency that many people lose very early in life: self-trust. Over time, most people are trained out of it. They're taught to doubt their instincts, defer to authority, explain themselves endlessly, justify choices, and wait for permission before moving forward. You are no exception. But now, that pattern collapses. You no longer feel the need to check in with everyone else before deciding. You don't replay conversations in your head, wondering if you said the wrong thing. You don't seek reassurance before taking steps that feel right. Not because you're reckless, but because your inner alignment has locked in. You don't need others to understand in order to proceed. Your direction feels private and solid. Opinions lose their grip on you. Praise doesn't inflate you. Criticism doesn't shake you. You hear feedback without absorbing it emotionally. This doesn't mean you stop listening. It means you stop handing over authority. You also feel peaceful, even without answers. And this is crucial. Earlier versions of you needed clarity before calm. You needed certainty before moving forward. You needed guarantees to feel safe. Now that order reverses. You feel calm first. Answers arrive later, or sometimes not at all. And that's okay, because trust no longer depends on outcome. This is not passivity. This is mastery. December 17th marks the moment your soul stops asking permission to exist. You no longer shrink your truth to fit expectations. You no longer negotiate your instincts. You no longer explain your boundaries. You stand fully present. And when that happens, fear loses its leverage. Fear can only control a soul that doubts itself. Once self-trust returns, fear has nowhere to attach. You may still feel uncertainty. You may still face the unknown. But it no longer paralyzes you. You move anyway, calmly. This is why nothing dramatic needs to happen now. No sudden breakthrough, no external validation, no announcement from the universe. Your power is already back. It returned quietly through alignment, restraint, clarity, and presence. And now life responds differently. Decisions align faster. Opportunities meet you halfway. Resistance dissolves without confrontation. Not because you are forcing anything, but because your energy is no longer fragmented. You trust yourself fully, and that changes how the universe interacts with you. From this point forward, your path doesn't require permission slips. It unfolds through inner consent. You no longer wait to feel ready. Readiness lives inside you. This is the return of soul authority. And once it's restored, it cannot be taken again, because it doesn't depend on circumstances. It depends on recognition. And you've remembered who you are. Chosen one, if you're still here, this is not coincidence. This message found you because something inside you is already awake. December 17th didn't arrive to shock your life into change. It arrived to restore what was never meant to be taken from you, your inner authority. You are no longer scanning the world for confirmation. You are no longer waiting for signs to point the way. You are the signal now. Your calm is not withdrawal. It is stability. Your quiet is not uncertainty. It is certainty without noise. From this moment forward, life begins responding to you differently. Not because you demand more, not because you force outcomes, but because you finally stopped leaving yourself behind. You stopped negotiating your truth. You stopped explaining your knowing. You stopped shrinking to stay safe. You didn't miss the activation. You reached the frequency required to hold it. And when a soul reaches this state, life no longer tests to teach lessons. It synchronizes, it aligns, it cooperates. Nothing needs to rush now. Nothing needs to prove itself. Your power didn't return loudly, it returned permanently.